us. Some kind of liquid drips from its head, curling around the edges of its face. It almost looks like it's crying. Alright, I'm gonna need to make some room because holy crap, I might have to do some quick time mousing events here. I gotta get situated. But that thing is definitely moving. Okay. The mill backs up until he's standing beside me. The figure continues its slow advance, head jerking from one angle to another.
What on earth?
That's a Nixie?
It's one of them.
Yes, Nixie that stumble across the bridges looking for opportunities.
The guide standing next to us, I didn't even notice him approach.
The ones that can make it out of the water are generally referred to as prowlers.
Prowlers, huh?
I had no idea things like that were out here. Is that what Kika saw down the other path?
The guy says nothing, instead returning to the front of the party. Margaret watches him pass. Her frustration morphs into nervous optimism when something seems to come into her mind.
Well, Nixie aren't slowed down much by swords, but at least light keeps them away, right?
God, I hope so. Margaret's hand grips her face tight, and desperation bleeds into her voice. I bite the inside of my lip.
Direct light will force it to return to the lake. However, it'll try to drag the light, or you, down with it before it goes.
Dude, that is disturbing. Instinctively, I reach for the hilt of my sword, despite the fact that it would do little to protect me. The prowler is getting closer, jerking forward, stopping and resuming its slow advance.
Okay, does anyone have a light we can leave here? That way it won't follow us.
Only matches.
Bamil spits. He's the only one bringing up the rear, so he's the most likely to be in danger if he keeps following. The guide, however, moves forward.
Don't forget it's there, don't let your guard down, and don't get left behind.
Sounds reasonable.
What? How am I supposed to keep walking with this thing at my heels? You said it wants to attack.
Don't give it the chance.
Bamil sputters in anger, and the guide summarily ignores him. I slowly grab hold of Bamil's upper arm.
Here, I'll lead you like this, and you can keep your focus solely on the prowler. Make sure it doesn't get too close.
Oh boy. Bamil eyes the guide with unresolved hostility, but allows himself to softly sigh in relief. He gazes at me with fondness.
At least there's someone I can count on.
Oh boy. Bamil, you'll get us killed, aren't you? Despite the fact I'm going against his advice, the guide says nothing. Nothing more. It's clear now that he doesn't give a damn what we end up doing. Some part of me is glad for that. I want to help everyone make it through, and it would be worse to have to persuade the guide every time help was necessary.
Kika, thank you.
Bamil places a gentle hand on my shoulder. Sure. I feel Bamil start as I reappreciate his touch, but just as quickly a smile replaces his shock. The moment is pleasant, a small balm against a large burn. I harden my expression and Bamil follows suit. He moves his free arm down. I fully link his arm with mine and now properly settled look forward. Margaret is following the guy with some reluctance, turning back every so often to check on us. I wave my lantern to signal we're catching up. Margaret returns her head to the front, quickens her pace. With a tug on Bamil, we start to follow them. Ew, what is that noise? The four of us continue cautiously over the bridges. Only this time, the wet, squishing footsteps of the prowler join the sound of our own. In spite of myself, I grip Bamil tighter. The prowler walks without a set pattern, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. It takes long steps, then short ones. At times, it stops walking entirely. Alright, I got an insect on my laptop, and it's just going to die. Okay. So, does it hurt to be out of the water like this, or is it trying to be difficult to read? Suddenly, the whispering in the lake grows louder. I steel myself, trying not to let it get to me. The most important thing in this situation like this is to remain calm. I can't lose my head. Then all at once, I notice the guide and Margaret have come to a halt.
Bemele, they're stopping.
Bemele slows down as I do. As we near Margaret's back, she says something akin to...
There's another one.
I tug on Bemele, and he understands. We draw up close to Margaret, ready to protect her if need be, but the guide holds out a hand.
Don't get any closer.
Just over his shoulder, I see another prowler stumbling towards us, with white liquid dripping from his eyes. The guide's hand turns over in the air, palm up.
Give me a lantern. We'll throw it.
Margaret extends her own with a trembling hand. When Bemele speaks instead, his back still turned.
If you have to take someone's, take mine.
Yes, an extra light won't do us much good when we're standing this close together.
Margaret takes Bemele's lantern from him, guarded relief displayed on her features.
Thank you.
She hands a lantern to the guide, whose hand grips it tightly, knuckles growing pale.
Stay here. I can't throw it too far. The light will blow out before it reaches the Nyx.
He steps closer to the monster, his movements... That is, like, straight out of a... Like, completely out of a horror movie. What is... This prowler looks like all bone with muscle, and it... Okay. He steps closer to the monster, his movements light and confident. As he nears the prowler, starts to back away. Is it only the approaching light that's making it retreat, or are they afraid of him? The guide is far enough away from us that the fog is partly obscuring him, hiding his movements. The voices from the lake grow louder and louder. Water suddenly begins to splash across the lake in the distance and onto the edges of the bridge. They want him to mess up. I don't notice how tense I am until Bemele eases my grasp on his arm. Then suddenly the guide takes multiple long and fast strides forward, throws the lantern, and jumps backwards to regain his lost distance. There's a sharp hiss and then a deep splash, and the voices of the Nixie grow quieter. Not silent, but quieter. A sigh escapes me, and the guide comes back to our group.
We should keep going before it comes back.
I glance at Bellamy and realize he too is looking relieved at the guide before us. And then I see it. Oh! Oh, hi. The first prowler. It's still there. It's right there. Aren't you a pretty motherfucker? You want a kiss? Mwah! I shift around, pulling Bemele behind me. The prowler lunges after him, barely missing Bemele, but striking my lantern instead. The fire goes out, and the two of us are plunged into an unearthly darkness. Then there's a slick splash. I realize that Nyx has retreated into the water somehow. Bellamy and I are still standing. We're still here.
Kika, thank you.
Oh, no. I can't respond. Something cold, wet, and slimy has grabbed my ankle. Get off me. I kick my leg out as fast as I can, and Nix's hold slips. It can't pull with the momentum I've gained against it. Margaret rushes to my side, her lantern hanging out towards Nix. The light brushes its face. We see it for an instant, its eyes wide, and then slides back into the smooth surface of the water. Bemele grabs Margaret and I, both helping us toward the center of the bridge and cussing under his breath.
I only looked away for 1 second.
It's fine, Bemele. We're all fine.
Are you actually alright?
Margaret cocks her head down, examining my ankle, but there's nothing but a wet smudge around my trousers. Oh.
I am fine.
I say that, though I don't actually want to let go of Bemele. I need to in order to relight our lantern and provide us actual safety, but I feel such strong desire to be alone in this moment. I shake my head roughly and let go of him, relighting the lantern as fast as I'm able.
Kika, thank you. Again. You saved my life. I won't let this happen again.
Yes. Yes. It would be good for all of us to pay more attention.
Margaret nods solemnly. Suddenly it seems like we're all on the same side. It isn't only Bemele and I. She is with us in more than simply presence. The guide's voice, as cold as that monster's grasp, ends my train of thought.
We lost the lantern I threw, and Nix grabbed it after the light went out.
Margaret makes a noise. I glance over, wondering whether she's upset, but there's a small circle on her face instead.
It's better than them taking anything else.
A nervous laugh bubbles up out of me and just as quickly stops. Bemele chuckles in response, and our collective tension eases up, the adrenaline draining from our bodies.
We need to keep walking.
Yes, Gandalf. The guide starts down the bridge, and we join him. I try to clamp down on the relief, the ease that wants to flood my body. It's not over. The Prowler is gone, but so is Bellamy's lantern.
You can stay near me, Bemele, since your lantern is lost.
I appreciate it.
Margaret goes ahead of us. Bemele stays by my side as I keep at the end of the line. The breath of release for Margaret and Bemele is quickly swallowed by the somber atmosphere of Sinnlos, as well, replaced by the gravity of near-death experience. Never mind celebrating his survival, something like that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The memory of the Prowlers reaching out towards us appears each time I close my eyes.
Why does it look like something's dripping down their faces?
The Prowlers are on Margaret's mind too. Looking at her pain expression, it's as though the moment of relief never existed at all.
I'm not sure.
Me neither. Something's wrong with them, though. They live in water. Air shouldn't be good for the things, but they want to drown humans so much they're willing to drag themselves around on land? It's not right.
No, I understand. Just makes no sense with the Nixie. And this is really bizarre, honestly. Of course, it isn't. They are monsters. They likely do not understand even the concept of right and wrong.
Well, I don't disagree that there's something very wrong about them. I truly hope that's the last we'll see of the Prowlers.
Nope, I don't. It's not the last of them. We're just beginning. We will see them more and more often. Something comes to her mind, causing Margaret to end her part of the conversation early.
Since you two have to share a light, wouldn't it be safer to be in the middle?
Margaret stops and waits for Bamela and I to reach her position.
That way, you'll catch the edges of my light and the guides, and it won't be so dangerous if Bamele loses his position momentarily.
That's a very kind offer, Margaret.
I mean, yeah, it is. Bamele's surprise is so apparent, I want to cover his face with my hands to stop him from insulting her. She merely smirks. I think Margaret may be surprised with herself too. Bamele returns to his usual searchery.
As thoughtful as it is, I, at least, am fine with bringing up the rear. I'm used to keeping watch for monsters, and since there are two of us, I can pay attention to the back while Kika focuses ahead. It's not my light, though, so I shouldn't be the one to decide what she should do with it.
Margaret and Bamele turn to look at me in unison. Seems like it's my decision. Neither of them are wrong. As for me, my goal is to protect everyone. I can't very well do that with Margaret falling behind us. But being stuck in the middle of the group could also be dangerous, depending on what circumstances we come across. Getting pincered by an enemy would be almost sure death, no matter how experienced Bamele and I are. I just don't know what to expect from this bridge, and that makes things so much more difficult.
So you're staying behind?
I'll stay behind, yes.
Seems like it.
Yes, I think we'll be good here. But really, thank you. That was a very kind offer.
Well, all right.
I would like to have a little bit more decision making there, but oh well. Margaret respects our decision and trots ahead a bit. To catch back with the guide. He who has paid no mind to the entire affair.
So, I don't want to sound like a child, but how much longer until we arrive at the halfway point?
Are we there yet? Margaret chuckles, reflecting the amusement I don't want to vocalize.
We still have some ways to go.
Damn.
I suppress my laughter yet again at his pouting response. The gloom we've been under dissipates slightly like light flickering through the fog.
The first trial tends to be the most difficult. I believe we will only react better from this point on.
Okay.
I like the way you think.
I don't. Then a gleam enters Bamil's eyes and he grins. I won't get you, Margaret.
I think Kika deserves a round of applause. Her quick reflexes are owed the utmost appreciation.
Don't celebrate. He leans softly into my shoulder, trying to get me to what?
It was indeed a sight. You're quite capable. Bemele was also a sight, but for very different reasons. The way he froze with his mouth all agape was a laugh in itself.
Bamila shakes a fist at Margaret in mock anger, then shoots me an affectionate look.
You should know, she and I are usually on equal footing.
The only reason you had footing at all is because she pulled you back.
Bamil laughs self-consciously, scratching his head.
That's very true. You can always count on Kika.
I keep my eyes steadily ahead, unsure how I should respond. I'm pleased, almost grateful to hear what they think of me, but I don't know what I could say that wouldn't seem pathetic. Instead, I contribute the best way I can. I keep my focus on the path ahead of us. Without a response from me, the conversation quickly dies out. Still, it eases my heart to be on such friendly terms with my companions. After some time, I notice Margaret isn't keeping up with the guide as much as she was before. I realize it's because the guide has increased his pace. Margaret begins to jog in an effort to keep up with him, and Bamil and I do the same. Despite this, the guide keeps getting further away. Gandalf, what are you doing? Don't do that. We go faster and faster until suddenly we're full on sprinting across the slick wooden boards. Oh boy, someone's gonna fall in. Figures in the dark fog fly past us at a blur, and it occurs to me the branching paths in the bridge appear to be sinking. I try hard to swallow my rising panic. The guy shouts something but is drowned out by the frantic pounding of our footsteps. Trying to piece together what he said, don't, stop, turn. What he takes masterfully sharp right down a different path using his own momentum and the sleek wood to slide into the new direction with no less speed. Margaret must have not worked out the warning either, as she had completely caught off guard by the guide's change in course. She runs straight ahead past the turn and continues down the path we've been following up until now. She clumsily begins to halt her momentum down the wrong bridge. Then I come up the fork. I make a hard turn, following the guide and leaving Margaret at the rear. Belleville's footsteps stay as loud as they were before. He's made the turn as close behind me as ever. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Margaret turn around to try to come back to us, only to have the bridge in front of her fall away. Bye, Margaret. I slow down for a breath, feeling the impulse to turn back, but ignore it. There's no time. Margaret can make the jump, and then she'll rejoin us. I keep my eyes glued to the guide's back, ears perked for Margaret's footsteps approaching behind us. And then I hear it. A scream. I whip around, sliding to a stop. Margaret is sinking. The bridge she's on is sinking into the water. She's disappearing. She didn't jump.
What are you doing?
Margaret's head shoots up, her face drained of all color.
Jump!
She stumbles near the edge of the bridge, starting at the placid water of the lake. Even from a distance, I can see her shaking. I can't say it's from the bridge's descent of her own fear. She barely seems to remain standing. I swallow painfully. Margaret bends and tries to jump. She curves in a small arc, achieving more height than she should, and lands directly in the lake with a mudded splash. Bamil starts beside me. I start to grab his hand and pull. We start running again, leaving Margaret flailing in the water. I'm sorry, Margaret. We don't need to watch We don't need to watch this. We both know exactly what happened to her now. Margaret's anguished cries pierce the night. Then the screaming stops. My legs grow weak. It isn't right, but I push myself to keep going. Bamil curses between heavy breaths, calling those things every foul name in his large book. I try to focus on the pounding of my feet, but my brain won't cooperate. Instead, I imagine Margaret's terror as she's clawed to pieces by the Nixie. After everything I didn't help her, we left her in the dark. As the night wears on, our strength rapidly fades. How much longer will this last? People have to rest sometime. Almost as if in response to my thought, the guide abruptly halts. I skid to a stop, as well sliding on the surface of the wood.
Why did we stop?
Bameli's voice is tired, but his guard is up. The guide doesn't answer, just stares at something slightly out of view. I step up to join him, following his gaze further down the path. It's Margaret, isn't it? There, curled hair, a little ball illuminated by lantern's light, cowers a person. His hands grip his head, and he rocks from side to side, mumbling incoherently.
It's a man.
Oh, never mind.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm stuck with an array of questions. What is going on? Why would he wander out onto these bridges on his own? Did he make it this far by himself? Where were there others? Were there others with him? If that's the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above me, seemingly only just now having the strength to lift his head. His expression, the deepest sadness along with the clear markings of terror, are scrawled across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
Oh? I snap my eyes away from the man and instead to the guide's cold, implacable face.
No! We can't just leave him here. Without light, it's certain he'll die.
He won't make it regardless.
The guide turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I can feel a quick motion, so I'm gonna do this. You wanna start something? Okay. This is gonna be our next save. I glance at my partner. Bamil is outraged. I'm trying to think of some kind of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges. I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
Adrenaline surges through my veins and I tense up. It's a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, but merely to show us the way. We're on our own. Bamil and I frankly share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. Neither of us have a desire to speak and be the first to make a choice. The man is standing now, though still hunched with his arms wrapped around himself, as if expecting a blow. He stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to
Are
him?
you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone. Oh?
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
I mean, you're as good as dead, but I don't like to leave people behind. I mean, I feel sad. I've killed Margaret. I could have just kept going straight, but it was a quick time and I wanted my decision. Oh well, we'll come back and do it again, see what happens if we try to go further with Margaret.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you, but that's not how things always go. Doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's responses, metering the words themselves, seem to be in good jest, but he's still barely looking at us. Fidgeting with his hands, Bamil frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first
What
time.
part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You have found yourself out alone and unlit on Sinnlos.
Exactly! Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no, sounds like you've been talking with my father.
He lets out a weak little laugh, coupled with an eyebrow raised, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. The man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Bamil huffs, tossing his hands into the air.
That's not even the right way.
It is for me.
Oh? You must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore you started on.
The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There is no response to this remark. Unsure of what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
I look over the man's body. Nothing the scrawniness of his limbs, scrawny but not necessarily lacking in muscle. The bravado he was showing on us as he tried to leave us has faded yet again, and now he's standing quietly looking at us as if watching a play. Interest, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering? It's not mine, and you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Bamil's hands turn to fists. He looks away, but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared comes to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another. Why must he get involved now? Why can we not leave us? Why can he not leave us to make our own decisions?
You... Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something. I cannot place it. And he starts to shuffle back down the way he came, arms still clenched around himself. I know the guy wants to act as though there's no option. However, I could stay back with him. It'll put Bamil and myself at significantly more risk, but at least this man will stand a chance. Can I save? I can't risk it. Bamil stares at the man as he leaves. We both watch him drag his little frame down the bridge, quickly fading from sight. We had to let him go. We've already suffered the loss of one of our own. The space the man vanished into is dark and silent. We can see and hear nothing of him, not even his footsteps. The guy was right. There is no other options. Well, that is what I have to believe. We need to get through this somehow, and being weighed down with guilt will only distract us. The guide starts moving again at a quick pace. After a moment's hesitation and one last glance into the truly lifeless fog, we run to catch up to him. We walk onwards in silence. Our party hasn't changed. The stranger was never added to it, so it's not as if it makes sense to miss him. But there's sense of loss all the same. No one even attempts mirth. I keep thinking I should have done more, should have pushed the guide harder to change his mind so it was less dangerous to keep the man around. something, anything, but I have to let this go. I'm not going to forget that man. I'll never forget him, but we still need to get through this. I curl my hands into fists, hoping that it'll strengthen my resolve. Then I push forward. We turn down a different path and the guide stops. Oh, hi guys. Ahead of us stand a group of prowlers. At the sound of us, they turn their heads in unison as if they knew we were coming. I inhale. How y'all doing? Y'all doing great? The prowlers wriggle, somehow their skin moving more slowly than it should, sliding across their skeletons. They laugh.
We cannot lose another lantern at this point. We're almost to the island.
The guide rummages through his coat with his free hand.
What are you planning?
Emil's tone borderline threatening, but the guide ignores him. He pulls out a small pouch and opens the latch on his lantern.
Wait, are you going to throw that at them? What if the bridge sets on fire?
It will. We're going to run.
This is insane! These bridges are hellish enough without them also being on fire. And what about the other man? If he's still out there, this could...
He's dead. We're not losing another lantern.
He says it with such detached certainty, as if he saw it happen himself. No one argues with him. The guide steps closer to the prowlers. We fall into step behind him, staying close to his back. He bends his lantern back down until it's lowered to his outstretched arm. The pouch in his hand is set aflame. With practice flick of the wrist, he swings the staff back and up. The glass on the lantern snaps closed.
Don't get left behind.
He takes 3 quick steps, then tosses the pouch. The prowlers are back in the water before the pouch even lands. As soon as it does, the fire starts to lick and curl itself around the wood. Oh boy! The guide breaks into a sprint, and so do the rest of us. The blaze grows despite the heavy dampness from the lake. These bridges aren't normal bridges, of course. That's true. Nothing here is right. Hopefully, they won't collapse with the flames. We stay on the guide's heels, almost too close for comfort. If he stops abruptly, we will all crash into one another, maybe even fall off the bridge. Then the world tilts. I was mid-stride when I put my foot down. The bridge isn't where it was. It lurches to one side, either because it was wrecked, or it was weakened or pushed. But Mill and I managed to keep our ground. As it does, the